everyone. We have a quadratic equation. We have x squared minus 2ax plus 3 equals 0. It has two roots, one divided by sine of theta and one divided by cosine of theta. We're going to find the value of a here. And also we're in quadrant 1. When we're in quadrant 1, that means our cosine of theta is positive, and so is our sine of theta. It's also positive. Now, looking at the nature relationship between the roots and coefficients, I can solve this by doing the sum and product of roots. So if we let this one be alpha and this root be beta, my sum of the roots is going to be 1 divided by sine of theta plus 1 divided by cosine of theta, and that equals negative b over a. So basically my a is 1, my b is negative 2a, and my c is 3. So this is just going to be 2a divided by 1. So that's just 2a. And then the product of roots is when you multiply these two. So this would be 1 divided by sine of theta times cosine of theta. And that's going to equal 3 divided by 1. I can also write this as sine of theta times cosine of theta equals 1/3. All right. Also, what we need to note is that my a is going to be positive, because if my sine is positive and my cosine is positive, then this whole value has to be positive. So my a has to be positive. So that's going to come in handy. Now, let's go ahead and square. We'll call this one equation 1. And let's square both sides. So basically, we're going to take 1 divided by sine of theta plus 1 divided by cosine of theta and square it. So that's going to be 2a squared. This is going to give you 1 divided by sine squared of theta plus 2 divided by sine of theta cosine of theta plus 1 divided by cosine squared of theta equals 4a squared. Now, in the next slide, what I'm going to do is get the common denominator and simplify this. So basically, I want my common denominator to be sine squared of theta times cosine squared of theta. That means I'm going to have to multiply this one by cosine squared of theta. This one will be, I have to multiply it by both sine of theta, cosine, and this one I'm going to have to multiply by sine squared of theta. So basically I'm going to do that on the next slide. So we're going to get our common denominator is sine squared of theta times cosine squared of theta. And then my numerator changes. It's going to be, like I said before, cosine squared of theta. And then we're going to have plus sine squared of theta. That was that end piece we had. And then we're going to have plus 2 sine of theta times cosine of theta. And this all equals 4a squared. All right. Now, this equals 1 using your Pythagorean identities. So we're going to get 1 plus 2. And this sine of theta times cosine of theta was 1/3. So that's going to be times 1/3. This is going to be 1/3 right there. Now my denominator is squared. So basically, this just equals this squared. So I just square that. So that's going to be 1/3 squared. And this all equals 4a squared. So what we get is this numerator is going to be 5 divided by 3. And the denominator is going to be 1 divided by 9. And that equals 4a squared. All right. This part right here is like 5 divided by 3. And divided by 1/9 is the same as times 9 divided by 1. All right. So 3 goes into 9 3 times, so you get 15 equals 4a squared. A squared equals 15 divided by 4. Now if you square root both sides, put plus and minus, you're going to get a equals plus or minus square root of 15 divided by 2. Now remember I told you before our a has to be positive because our sine and cosine are positive. So basically we're just going to take a equals square root of 15 divided by 2. We can't use the negative. So this is your final answer. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.